Discipline outperforms emotion because emotion is unreliable, unpredictable, and constantly shifting, while discipline is steady, intentional, and built for long-term results. Emotion changes based on sleep, stress, weather, conversations, or even a notification on your phone. One moment you feel motivated and ready to conquer your goals, and the next moment you feel tired, distracted, overwhelmed, or discouraged. If you allow those fluctuating feelings to dictate your choices, your life becomes inconsistent. You may start strong, but you finish weak. You may set goals, but you don't follow through. You may dream big, but you don't execute. Emotion gives you temporary excitement. Discipline gives you lasting transformation. People often misunderstand success as a result of motivation or inspiration. They think you need to feel good to do good, but the truth is the complete opposite. The most successful people act regardless of how they feel. They have built systems, routines, and non-negotiables that don't bend based on emotion. They understand that feelings lie, they exaggerate problems, amplify fears, and create excuses. Discipline, on the other hand, is grounded in logic, clarity, and commitment. It reminds you of what you promised yourself when you were thinking clearly, not what you want in a moment of discomfort. When you rely on emotion, you only work on good days, but life doesn't reward only the good days, it rewards consistency. Discipline shows up even on the hardest days. It gets you out of bed when your mood wants comfort. It pushes you to finish the task when your mind searches for shortcuts. It forces you to take responsibility when your emotions want to shift blame. Discipline makes you stronger because every time you choose commitment over comfort, you train your mind to trust you. Confidence comes from that trust, the trust that you will do what you said you would do, even when the feeling disappears. Emotional people often start projects with enthusiasm but rarely complete them. They change their goals as soon as the journey becomes difficult. Discipline doesn't care about the mood of the moment, it cares about the mission. It keeps you aligned with your long-term vision instead of being controlled by short-term impulses. When you consistently practice discipline, you develop mental resilience. You begin to realize that feelings are just temporary waves, and waves don't determine the direction of the ship, the captain does. Discipline is the ultimate equalizer. You don't need to be the smartest, the most talented, or the richest. If you're disciplined, you will outwork, outlast, and outperform people who rely solely on emotion. Talent gives you a head start, motivation gives you a spark, but discipline keeps you moving until you reach the finish line. Emotion might inspire you to begin, but discipline ensures you succeed. When you finally look back at everything you've achieved, you won't thank your emotions, you'll thank your discipline. Clarity creates confidence because when you know exactly what you want, why you want it, and how you're going to get it, doubt doesn't have room to control you. Most people struggle not because they're incapable, but because they're unclear. They move through life guessing, hoping, reacting, and stumbling. They wake up with no plan, no priorities, and no structure, then wonder why they feel overwhelmed, anxious, or insecure. Uncertainty breeds hesitation. Hesitation breeds fear, but clarity eliminates both. When you have clarity, you gain direction. When you gain direction, you gain certainty, and certainty becomes confidence. Think about how you feel when you walk into a situation you fully understand. There's a sense of control, a sense of purpose. You know where you're going and what your next step is. That feeling doesn't come from luck, it comes from clarity. It comes from intentionally sitting down, defining your goals, breaking down your actions, and removing the factors that create confusion. The more precise you are about your path, the less emotional noise you have to deal with. Clarity is powerful because it removes the what-ifs that keep you stuck. People often believe they lack confidence, but what they really lack is information. They don't know what they truly want. They haven't defined their non-negotiables. They haven't chosen their priorities, and when everything feels important, nothing gets done. Clarity forces you to decide. It sharpens your focus. It cuts through chaos and says, "This is what matters right now, and everything else can wait." When you have that level of direction, your decisions become easier, your actions become faster, and your results become consistent. Confidence isn't built by cheering yourself on or repeating positive statements. It's built by doing the right things in the right order every day, and clarity tells you exactly what those things are. It reduces overwhelm because your brain no longer needs to guess. It reduces procrastination because uncertainty is no longer slowing you down. It reduces stress because you're not carrying the weight of 1,000 vague ideas. Instead, you're executing a clear, organized plan. Clarity also strengthens your resilience. When life gets tough, unclear people crumble because they don't know what to hold on to. Clear people stay steady because they know what they're working toward. They know the purpose behind their effort. They know the next step, even if the step after that is blurry. Confidence comes from that stability, from knowing you're on the right path, even during difficult moments. When you sit down and define your goals clearly, not loosely, not emotionally, but specifically, you take control, you eliminate confusion, you remove guesswork, and you build a foundation that your confidence can grow on every single day. Clarity is a decision, confidence is the result. Systems beat motivation because motivation is temporary, unreliable, and changes from moment to moment, while systems are stable, repeatable, and designed to work even when you don't feel inspired. Motivation depends on emotion, and emotions are inconsistent. One bad night of sleep, one stressful conversation, one unexpected setback, and suddenly your motivation disappears. If your success depends on feeling motivated, then your success will always be inconsistent. Systems remove that risk. Systems don't ask you how you feel, they guide your actions automatically. A system is a structure, it's a plan that doesn't change based on mood. It's a set of steps that you follow every single day, no matter what. Systems make success predictable because they break big goals into small, manageable pieces that are easy to repeat. With a system, you don't wake up wondering what to do, you already know. There's no wasted time, no mental negotiation, no emotional drama. You simply follow the process. That's why people with strong systems often outperform people who rely on enthusiasm. It's not about who feels more motivated, it's about who has a proven process. Motivation is loud in the beginning but quiet when things get hard. It will hype you up at the start of a new goal, but it won't stay with you through the tedious, unglamorous middle. Systems carry you through that middle. They give you direction when motivation disappears. They make progress automatic. When something becomes a routine instead of an emotional decision, you remove hesitation, you remove excuses, you remove the daily battle between what you want now and what you want most. Systems protect you from your weaker moments. People often say they struggle with discipline, but the truth is they struggle with structure. They're trying to rely on willpower instead of building a system that supports their goals. Willpower fades throughout the day, systems don't. When you create systems, morning routines, planning habits, work processes, accountability frameworks, you create an environment that makes the desired behavior the easiest behavior. You set up your life to help you win automatically. Think about areas where people are consistent, brushing their teeth, wearing clothes, locking the door. None of that requires motivation. It's built into a system. It happens without thinking. Imagine if your goals felt that automatic. That's the power of systems. They turn your aspirations into habits and your habits into results. Systems also create consistency, and consistency creates confidence. When you see yourself follow through day after day, not because you felt like it, but because your system guided you, you start trusting yourself. You start believing you can handle bigger goals. You become more resilient, more focused, and more capable. Motivation might get you started, but systems guarantee you finish. Systems make success sustainable. They take the guesswork out of growth. They keep you on track on your worst days and accelerate you on your best days. If you want long-term results, stop waiting to feel motivated and start building systems that make progress inevitable. Accountability builds character because it forces you to take full ownership of your actions, your decisions, and your outcomes without excuses, without blame, and without hiding behind circumstances. When you hold yourself accountable, you stop waiting for someone else to fix your life. You stop pointing fingers at other people. You stop letting situations dictate who you become. Instead, you become the kind of person who leads themselves with integrity, discipline, and honesty. That is the foundation of real character. Most people avoid accountability because it's uncomfortable. It requires you to look directly at your behavior, your patterns, and your habits without sugarcoating. It forces you to confront the truth. Your results are a reflection of your choices. If you haven't grown, it's because you didn't take consistent action. If you keep repeating the same mistakes, it's because you haven't taken responsibility for changing them. Accountability is not about feeling guilty, it's about being honest enough with yourself to change what needs to be changed. When you start holding yourself to a higher standard, your entire life shifts. You stop letting your mood decide your decisions. You stop waiting for motivation to show up. Instead, you commit to the work because you know your future depends on it. Accountability gives you structure. It gives you clarity. It gives you an internal framework that pushes you forward even when everything in you wants to slow down. People with strong character don't look for shortcuts or excuses, they look for solutions. Accountability also builds confidence, not the loud, superficial kind, but the deep, grounded confidence that comes from knowing you can depend on yourself. When you follow through on your commitments, you prove to yourself that you are trustworthy. When you keep your promises, especially the ones you make privately, you strengthen your integrity. Confidence comes from evidence, and accountability is how you collect that evidence. Every moment of honesty becomes a brick in the foundation of your character. It also teaches humility. Being accountable doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you're willing to admit when you fall short. It means you're open to feedback. It means you're willing to learn instead of defend your ego. That humility becomes strength because it keeps you growing. People who avoid accountability stay stuck. People who embrace it evolve. Accountability improves your relationships as well. When you take responsibility for your words and actions, your communication becomes clearer, your intentions become cleaner, and your connections become stronger. Others trust you more because you consistently demonstrate that you can own your mistakes and honor your commitments. Character is not built through talk, it's built through consistent behavior that matches your values. Ultimately, accountability is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. You cannot grow without it. You cannot lead without it. You cannot transform your life without it. When you make accountability a daily practice, you stop relying on excuses and start relying on discipline. You stop running from the truth and start using it to shape your future. This is how real character is built, one honest, responsible choice at a time. Mood follows action because your emotional state is often a response to what you do, not the other way around. Most people wait to feel right before taking a step, not realizing that the feeling they're waiting for is created by the step itself. Action generates momentum, and momentum transforms your mood. When you move your body, start the task, or make progress even in small ways, your brain responds by shifting your emotional state. The moment you take action, you create clarity, energy, and direction that your mood alone could never give you. People often assume that emotions are the starting point of productivity, growth, or success. They believe they must feel motivated before they begin, but moods are temporary and unreliable. They can be influenced by weather, stress, distractions, sleep, or random moments that have nothing to do with your goals. If you depend on your mood to drive your actions, you will remain inconsistent. You'll show up only when circumstances feel perfect. But if you reverse the equation and let action lead the way, your mood will naturally rise to match your effort. Think about those days where you don't feel like working out, but the moment you start stretching or walking, your energy shifts. Or when you don't feel like cleaning, But once you wash one dish or organize one corner, the momentum kicks in. It's not your mood creating the action, it's your action creating the mood. That principle applies to every area of life. Progress feels good, completion feels good, momentum feels good, and because of that, the act of doing becomes the catalyst for a better emotional state. Action also creates confidence. Every small step you take is evidence to your brain that you are in control. That builds a sense of capability and power. Confidence isn't built by waiting for the perfect mindset, it's built by doing the work regardless of the mindset. When you take action, even imperfect action, you interrupt negative patterns. You stop the cycle of overthinking, you silence the internal resistance, you shift from passive worry to active creation, and that shift generates a more empowering mood almost instantly. Your mind craves direction. When you give it a task, it stops drifting. When you give it purpose, it stops spiraling. When you take action, you create structure, and structure stabilizes your emotions. Instead of asking yourself, "How do I feel right now?" you begin asking, "What needs to be done right now?" That simple shift turns you from someone driven by mood into someone driven by intention. Mood follows action because action proves to yourself that you are capable, disciplined, and committed. Once your brain sees progress, it rewards you with motivation. Once it feels momentum, it rewards you with energy. Once it feels accomplishment, it rewards you with confidence. The key is not waiting for the emotion that drives you forward, the key is creating it through movement. If you want to feel better, start doing better. If you want motivation, create progress. If you want confidence, take a step. The fastest way to transform your emotional state is to take action first and let your mood rise to meet your effort.